Hey everyone, it's Mrs. Brimlow, and today we're going to do a quick review of exponents. So, we're about to get into exponent rules, but there's a lot of vocabulary and parts to it that I'd like to go over before we get to those rules. So, there's a copy of these notes linked in Canvas, or when you get back, you can get a copy from me. Okay. So, what are exponents? So, we have an example that has an exponent, and we read this as 5 to the fourth power or as 5 to the power of 4. Okay. And in this setup, we call 5 the base, and we call 4 the exponent or power. Okay. So, what do these parts do? So, the exponent tells you how many times the base is being used as a factor. Okay. Numbers expressed using exponents are called powers. Exponents can make it easier to write and use repeated multiplication. So factor means multiplication, means to multiply. So I can rewrite this as 9 times 9 times 9 times 9 times 9. That's not very efficient. So we can shorten that because I'm multiplying the number by itself, which we've seen with our perfect squares and perfect cubes. So we have our base 9 being multiplied 6 times. So we can just say 9 to the power of 6, and that tells whoever's looking at your math what's happening. Okay. Now, if you're working with technology, sometimes you might have to use this little caret symbol. If you look at your keyboard, it's on the number 6. So if you had 5 caret 4, that would just mean 5 is your base. That first number is your base, and to the power of or exponent 4. Okay. All right, now there are 3 ways you can work with numbers involving exponents. So we have what we call exponential form. So when you have a base and an exponent, expanded form when you write out the repeated multiplication, and standard form when you simplify it as far as it can go. So I have one line done for you. I want you to pause the video and try and fill in these blank spaces, then come back and check your work. Okay. Now that you've had a chance to try it, this one should be 6 times 6. So 6 is my base, and it has an exponent of 2, so that means it's multiplied by itself, so a total of 2 sixes. And when I actually multiply that, I get 36, okay? This next one, they give us repeated multiplication, so I can see that the number 7 is being multiplied by itself. So 7 is my base, and there are 3 of them, so the exponent is 3. And when I multiply that out, I get 343, okay? Standard form. So in this last one, I know my face is blocking it, but you'll be able to see it on the notes. They give us 32 for standard form, and they give us 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So the number being repeated is 2, and then it's being repeated 5 times. So that's 2 to the 5th power. Okay. So once again, these are the different forms that you can work with when numbers are written in exponents. Exponential forms, expanded form, standard form. Okay. If you have the notes when you're all set, you can flip them over. If not, just keep watching and you'll get a copy later. So far what we've looked at for examples, we had a base that was a number, okay? But because this is pre-algebra, we're getting ready for algebra 1, we're going to see bases with variables like we see in this example. So in this one, you see 6, you have x, and then you have 3. So in this example, 6 is called a coefficient. Okay? The x is the base, and 3 is the exponent. And I know that because that exponent is always going to be attached to the base. That 3 is with your x. Therefore, x is the base, 3 is the exponent. That 6 in the front, from what we've seen before working with expressions and equations, is what we call a coefficient. It's being multiplied by x to the third. Okay? So notice that there are no parentheses and that the exponent 3 is only attached to the x. Okay? If there were parentheses, that would change things, but there aren't. So it's only attached to x. So if I was to rewrite this, so 6x to the third, that's a saying 6 times x to the third. And in full expanded form, that would be 6 times x times x times x. That's what this expression is saying. Okay? So the number 6 is multiplied by whatever the value of x is 3 times. All right, so in this first section, I want you to try and pause the video and write the expressions without exponents, similar to what we just did, and then you can come back and check your work. Okay? So in this first one, we have 5, that is a coefficient, because the exponent 4 is attached to the base x, and we need 4 x's because that's what the exponent tells us. Okay? This next one, so you're going to notice I start with 7, okay? I have a to the second, b to the fourth. So in this expression, I have two different variables, and I'll know which exponent is attached because it will be the base with the exponent. So it's not a to the fourth or b to the second, or you combine them. A and b are different variables. So this would look like 7 times a, and then multiplied by b times b times b times b because I have 4 of them. Okay? Last but not least, x times x times x times y times y. Now you'll notice there is no number or coefficient written in front of this expression. And so when that happens, technically there is a 1, just so you know if you ever come across that question. So technically there is a 1 in front of this, but in math, when we have 1 as a coefficient, we don't typically write it. It's just not how we traditionally write it out in our work, okay? But know that that would be the coefficient to this expression, okay? All right, and in this second part, you're going to take the expanded form and you're going to write it with exponents. Be careful as you're looking through, it might not be in the correct order. When you have a coefficient, that coefficient should always come first. So coefficient would be just a number by itself. Go ahead and pause the video, try this, and then come back and check your work. Okay? So just quickly scanning this first problem, I see I have x and I have y. Doesn't really matter which variable you start with. I always like to go alphabetical. So x, I have 2 of those, and then y, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So x squared, y to the fourth, that's my expression. Now in this next one, I have the number 4, then I have y and z. So 4 is a coefficient, it's a number by itself. Next, I have 3 y's and I have 3 z's. Now, even though y and z have the same exponent, they need to be written separately since they are two different bases, okay? Now, when I look through here, everything's kind of mixed up. I've got b's, c's, and 8. 8 would actually come first being a coefficient, followed by b, and I have 3 of those, and then c, I have 3 of those, okay? So, in my last example, I've got 3, x, y, and 4. So everything's really mixed up here. When you have two numbers in an expression like this, you use multiplication. That's what we're doing in expanded form, and that's the operation we're working with. So 3 times 4 is 12. So that's where I'd start. And then I like to go alphabetical. So 1, 2, 3 x's, and then 1, 2 y's. So x to the third, y to the second, right? So when you're all set, you can go ahead and check out Canvas, see what the practice activities are. And if you have questions, let me know. I will chat with you soon.